All right. Get all set up here. Bum, bum. All right. Hope you guys can hear me well. If not, I'll just redo this feed. So the reason I'm broadcasting tonight, or I'm documenting this, is because I woke up to a pretty interesting situation. I woke up to a getting a message from one of my um, students' parents. They live out in California, and they were talking to a recruiter, and the recruiter critiqued um, my student, their daughter's work. And they said that she needs to work on her anatomy. Right now, they said she needs to work on her anatomy, that she draws like anime. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you guys tonight about is why this is a serious problem, like a problem that's been going on for decades, and it needs to stop. It really does. 1 second. All right, so the issue with this is when you okay, so first off, it's a kid. So the artist, she's 12. And her work's brilliant. Okay? Like, she's solid, she does great work, she has fun, all right, as an artist. Um so it's she's in that stage of play, creativity, experimenting. Now, the art recruiter never took this into consideration, I'm assuming, because they're looking just based upon the work, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But usually, well, actually, there's a problem with that also, actually, because age is very important when it comes to these kind of things. Now, I've been teaching art since 14. I'm 37 now. You can do the math, however long that is, 23 years. And so I know my stuff. I know it very well. I know the ability. I know how to connect to artists. I know how to um who's messaging me? Oh, I know how to communicate, all the above. Like, I know how to teach, based upon experience. Um Now the thing is, when you say something like, and this is where the person messed up at the recruiter. And this is what really gets me. They said that she draws anime. Okay, so let's be clear real quick. As if that's a negative. Okay, they're saying this as if it's a negative, as if the style's not mature. But really, what it is, it's actually very xenophobic, and it's very prejudiced. And there's two, and this is the reason why. And this is why this has been a problem in an art school forever, because we have a Western thought, and we have an idea of what we think um, art in a school setting should look like, which is fine. I actually agree about the discipline of working on anatomy. This goes as well as color theory, composition. These are just hallmarks and staples that you learn in art school, or if you're self reliant, you teach yourself. So the reason why this is a problem is because when you say they draw like anime, what the hell does that even mean? Anime is animation, okay? So if they're referring to Japanese animation, so anime, so they're saying that they draw in an anime style. That's not what that is. So by definition, they're wrong, okay? Just like plain wrong. It's referred to as cartooning, okay? They're cartooning, or sketching. That's also okay. But when you say anime, that's a very code term for like Eastern, influenced art. So what happens is that it's actually xenophobic, because they don't respect that style of work, and they see it as a lesser form of artwork or aesthetic than what they were taught. Okay, so I mean, I said it very clearly, but let's make it domestic. They're saying because you're drawing not like, Western or a European style, that it's wrong. Okay. So first off, that's like kicking sand in a kid's face in a sandbox, right? While they're just sitting there playing with their toys. They're like, dude, what the hell, right? So the reason this is like a fear that like art schools have, because definitely, like, okay, I teach at CCAD in this program called SMAC, which is like tons of kids, and trust me, the only style they come in with is this anime style. They're cartooning. Okay, they're cartooning. And it's beautiful, right? Their talent is like insane. We're talking like next level. I can't even, like, when I was their age, I couldn't even draw like that, like, they just get better each generation because they have access to technology. So really this recruiter is misinformed, and typically these schools are trying to get the best, right? And so what happens, it creates this fear in the parents, as if the kid is inadequate or that they don't have the ability. Okay, now I'm gonna get you hip. I'm gonna put you up on some game for anyone who has kids who are wanting to be aspiring artists and you're concerned about them getting in art school. Let me tell you a secret. Art school accepts everyone. You know why? Because they want your money. Trust me, art schools are struggling. Attendance is lower than ever, and they need your $100,000 to $200,000. So they don't even do portfolio. A lot of them drop their portfolio reviews. They don't even do portfolio reviews. Now, the reason I say you have to take age into consideration, meaning that, so typically if I'm reviewing someone's portfolio, because I get it, I end up doing about anywhere from 1 to 5 portfolio reviews a day. Okay. Now, and it's usually off the internet. Like, I get inboxed, like, hey, can you check out my work? Tell me, what to fix, blah, blah, blah. So I just consider it my job, right? And yeah, these kids want to, and I know exactly where these kids are. Like, I remember every phase of my progression of art. I can remember vividly every year how I felt. So I know how to put myself in these kids' shoes, right? Now, so I always ask for the age, because that is so important. The age is so critical, because if I'm judging a 12-year-old by the standards of a 12-year-old, so I'm not going to compare them to the standards of a 16-year-old who's working on a portfolio to go to art school. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, so there's levels with this art stuff. There's a time when you need to have fun. Right now, all of you people who, the typical saying is, I can't draw. I couldn't draw a line if my life depended on it. It's like a cliche thing, right? Or they say, here's the other one. My art school teacher told me I couldn't draw, so I never did again. I would actually say that the problem that we have with art in America, or why there's a level of ignorance about it, or a lack of enthusiasm, a lack of ignorance and a lack of enthusiasm about it, is because that, like, kindergarten through 5th, somewhere that person was told that they're not an artist. Okay. From an art teacher, or from an authority that they consider to be, someone they looked up to. So they completely throw it out the window of even trying. They just, no, it ain't gonna happen, right? Now, the problem with that is, one, you're ruining the potential of someone being educated and valuing art the same way they value sports, science, math, other classes in school. And then you're also setting back the culture and potential jobs, because no one's going to, that person loses a value for art over the course of time, and they place values in something else, like sports, something that accepts them or that embraces them. So when you take that away, these other cultures develop. That's why you have such a big sports program, because there's a relationship on the field, there's a relationship on the sideline, there's a relationship with the spectator. So there's a hierarchy of where everyone can enjoy and be involved. And that's why you have the commercialization of it with merchandise, etc., etc. So when you look at the art world, you're buying art constantly. If you go to Target and you buy a T-shirt, the tag was designed by a graphic designer. If you're buying food from McDonald's, its packaging is a designer. Aesthetics are involved, so artists are involved, but you ignore that artist. You ignore that artist stroke, that artist intention, because you lack intelligence, because it was taken away from you at a very young age. They told you, no, you can't have this because you don't show the flair or the talent to do it. So what occurs is that when you get into a space where it's time to go to an art school, then we can have that conversation. So if I'm talking to if I'm reviewing a portfolio for a 16-year-old, I'm going to say, okay, do you want to go to art school? And they say, yes. I say, okay, these are the steps that you'll want to take to work on these things to get you either a full ride, part scholarship, or just get in. Okay. Now, or to get in the school you want. Okay. Now, because visual language is important. And so someone who's reviewing portfolios, they know what works and what doesn't. They can see who has the potential and who does not. Now, I would like to talk about the credibility of these people. All right. So the problem with recruiters is that a recruiter doesn't have any authority. They're just like, they're your first gatekeeper, like they're the first one to, help you along your way. They're very necessary. They're needed. Recruiters are awesome. Most of the recruiters I know, or that I dealt with, or that I worked alongside with, very sincere, very empowering, all the above. So, but let's talk about the darker side of this. So you got to remember, it's a job. So with recruiters, it's a job. All right, let's be clear. And they see tons and tons of portfolios. They go on tours around the region, and their job is to recruit and to, get these people into their school. Okay. Now, typically your recruiter is usually your first year graduate from the art school, and they're there because they either wanted to continue in that collegiate capacity, but the next, or they can't find a job, so they take that job. They both, it's not discrediting, but it's when you have someone doing like they would consider it like a soulless job to a certain point. And like I said, you're going to have a lot of people who are like contrarian to this. And the reason why people are going to be contrarian to this is because they're bought. They went to art school, they paid for art school, and it's like a dogma to them. It's a religion. This is like what happens. Okay. Now, call me biased if you want. CCAD has a very strong recruiting program. It's actually really communal, very strong, very a lot of sharing. And that's fine if you call me biased, but I'm just speaking from experience and knowledge. They have a really solid department. Like I said, most art schools do. But why this is dangerous, because technically anyone can critique your work if you respect their opinion or if they work in the field. So you can ask an educator, a teacher. A recruiter is not an authority, because an art teacher can get you into a school as well, maybe even faster than a recruiter, because you could go through a different process. You all end up going through the same process at the end. You have to sign paperwork. But what I'm saying is that they can give you a direct pipeline, perhaps. So what occurs and what happens is that why this is dangerous is because when you tell someone that they're drawing anime when they're just cartooning, like I said, that gives a negative connotation. So that's going to make the artist defensive about their work. And if you are telling this to a 12-year-old or someone who's just enjoying making work, and but the parent like thinks that they're doing something wrong, do you see how that confuses them? Do you see how that is a problem? Okay, so what happens typically is that is the same feeling that you had as someone telling you when you were a kid that you can't draw, and you should never do art. Someone that you respect. That is the same exact thing that you're doing to that person who could potentially be the next um, Disney executive, the next master painter. Because trust me, like if they want to do the art thing for a living, they learn by experience. You learn real quick on what works and what doesn't because you have to make a living off of it. You have to sell. So the best experience you can have is I don't want this day job at wherever, whatever $10 an hour paying job. I want to do art full time. How can I make that into a job? And if their style is inadequate and it can't pay bills, guess what? They're going to change their style. So when you look at my work, a lot of times people are like, "Oh, Brian, you have a lot of different styles," and it's literally like, well, because I have to make a living, right? And I do well, and that's because I didn't sit there and I didn't rest upon what I like to self-indulge about. And an artist will figure that out real quick once they have to pay bills, right? Because once they see, like, let's say someone commissions them to do a painting, a portrait, guess what? They're like, well, I know this, and I know that. Okay, so if I apply these things to painting, then I can paint too. It's a very direct process. Like the idea that that an artist is like stuck in this one style is a misconception. That's not true at all. Like they just have to change either their medium, their mindset, or their technique. That's all. They refer to it as Bigfoot and Littlefoot. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track here. My point is that this idea of like drawing anime, like I said, has been going on for decades. So because what it is that you don't want your job being taken away by a foreigner. Like I said, they're xenophobic, seriously, and they're prejudiced. So they're not going to give praise to a Eastern style. They're going to tell you how the nine old men are the authority on art because it's Disney and it's American and it's Western. Yeah, speak to what you know, but don't dismiss someone cartooning because it's not anime. That's just like literally dumb. They're just cartooning. So it's like so be aware of this. Be aware of recruiters who dismiss a style based upon something generic that they see all the time, right? Because trust me, doing foundation arts, is you're going to have to learn it regardless if you want to get through art school, right? But like I said, so that's about it. But yeah, like if anyone says that kind of stuff, really curve it hard, like because there's nothing wrong with the way someone's style is. Now, like I said, well, I'll leave it off on this once again. Once you get to a certain level, yeah, you want to start doing your 100 hands, your 100 feet, your 100 heads, these things to like develop a very solid foundation of ability and talent. But if you're a 12-year-old and you're having fun drawing your OCs, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like you can do whatever the hell you want. Like you're not obligated to like render feet. Like what are you going to do with 100 feet? There's nothing you can do with a drawing book of 100 feet. Yeah, you'll draw feet better, but guess what? If you do 100 drawings, you're going to learn real quick how to draw feet, period. So yeah, and my students do 100 hands, 100 feet. They do that the whole process. Why? Because I want them to like develop their skills. But that's not the but you have to approach it in a fun way. Once you turn art into work, because that's a lot of times like safe spaces for people. Art is safe spaces for those kids. And when you take away their safe space because you want to like basically just piss on their parade because you had a hard time in art school, right? It's like that's your problem. You know what I mean? Don't project your problems onto somebody else. It's not fair and it doesn't do anything for anyone. So, yeah, like, and like I said, say something in the comments. I'll post this on Facebook. But, like I said, an artist, if they want to grow, it happens over time. It doesn't happen in 100 drawings of a foot. That just shows you can draw a foot. It just shows that you can uh, do what they want. And trust me, like most of these people who say this, this kind of stuff, when they do their artwork, they're just copying. They're not working on their head. They're usually projecting paintings and shit like that. So, don't be fooled. It's all like tricks and illusions. So, anyway, I'm going to get off now because I'm starting to ramble, but I had to get that out. All right, take it easy. Cheers.